We're here to talk Turkish get-ups today, one of the most complicated and beneficial movements of the kettlebell. Let's look at what a Turkish get-up looks like from start to finish. The Turkish get-up is good for so many things: balance, coordination, strength, metabolic conditioning, proprioception, mobility. And once you practice the different segments of it, it gets easier and easier to link it all together. In that video, I was doing a get-up with a very heavy weight. It's 53 pounds, which takes a lot of stability, a lot of coordination, and a lot of practice. As you can see, I move through it really, really slowly. That's because at every single point, I'm stabilizing my joints, I'm stacking them, I'm engaging my core and making sure I don't fall apart so that that weight doesn't hit me in the face. It's kind of scary, but it's also really fun to be able to get up with that much weight over my head, because naturally, with my body size and even with my strength, I can't really clean that or press it over my head. In order to start, we have to make sure we understand that at every single section of the get-up, we are stacking joints. So you are optimizing your stacking by making sure that you're landing your limbs in the right spots underneath other joints. Let me show you what that means. I started on the floor with a really good sit-up. This sit-up is one of the most crucial things that's going to set your Turkish get-up up for success or failure. I'm going to start out with one leg bent and one arm straight. Your other leg should be about 45 degrees from your midline. This leg and this arm are in alignment with each other. This is the arm that you have the bell in. This is my right arm. My left arm, I'm also going to engage my core, so I'm going to push my back flat into the floor, and my left arm is about 45 degrees from my body as well. And the first thing I'm going to do is dig my fingers and my left arm into the floor, and then I'm going to dig my elbow into the floor and do one big sit-up. Ready? So I'm going to work on doing that sit-up over and over again in that position. To go back down, I'm going to go to my shoulder and then to my other shoulder. So again, I'm going to do a sit-up going and then to my shoulder and my other shoulder. Let's do it one more time together. 3, 2, 1. Exhale, just like you would when you're doing a sit-up, yes? And then from here, I'm actually going to go to my palm. So I'm going to press my fingertips into the floor and lift my elbow up off the floor. It looks like this. And in this position, I'm really dragging my elbow around, trying to make sure that I'm digging my roots in, essentially, in this position. A couple of things to pay attention to in that sit-up. This leg never leaves the floor. This leg also never leaves the floor. So you really want to work on driving those two limbs into the ground before you sit up. That's going to set your get-up up for success. Now we're going to lift our hips off the floor. You're going to press into your hand, your heel, and your other heel. And you're going to drive your body up towards the sky. So your heel is going to press into the floor and your hips are going to lift up off the floor. A way to practice this drill is to just sit in this position, lift your hips up, and drop down to the floor. You're pressing super hard in both heels and really driving your glutes up as you press into the ground with your hand as well. You're trying to push everything towards the ceiling. Once you're here, you're creating enough space so you can drag that leg in. And now you're at a 90-degree angle. So here's what it looks like. You're going to push yourself up off the floor, and then you're going to drag this leg in. You're going to replace your butt cheek on the floor with your heel. If I were to do it from this angle, here's what it looks like. Up and pull. Now, from this position, you want to sit back into your heel and pick your hand up off the floor. Again, we are keeping our joints stacked as we sit back into our heel and drag our hand off the floor. I'm still pressing up as hard as I can, and then I'm pushing my hips forward to finish my stacking here. So either I'm going to move this front leg in front of me to be set up for a lunge, or I'm going to move my back leg so that I'm set up for a lunge. It changes the degree of which way you're standing, but it doesn't really matter. So you're gonna stand up whichever way it makes sense. Now that I'm in a standing position, I can take my eyes off of the bell. I can look forward and recoup while I set myself up to go back down through my get up. Every step needs to be repeated. So I'm gonna start with that big lunge, stepping back into the floor. And then again, I can step to the side with my front or my back leg. I'm gonna choose my front leg and I'm gonna rotate it 90 degrees. And then from here, I need to put my hand on the floor somehow. So I'm gonna place my hand on my thigh, drag it down to the floor, and extend it out. Now I'm in my stable positioning on the floor. And then from here, I'm gonna kick my leg out and go back into the bridge. So kick my leg out, back into the bridge position, then put my hips down, and then I'm gonna set my elbow down next. And then I'm gonna pull my shoulder back. So I'm still keeping my stacked wrist over my shoulder, over my bottom shoulder, and then I'm gonna relax. A huge part of Turkish get-ups is never taking your eyes off of the kettlebell until you are standing. Super important because the second your eyes leave the kettlebell, your stabilization is threatened. Your stacking is threatened, and therefore that bell might fall. So a really good way to practice keeping your eyes on the kettlebell is by balancing something on your hands without actually holding on to it. The perfect tool is your shoe. Take my shoe off. I'm gonna keep my balance here and try not to lose it. You can use your thumb to kind of balance the shoe, but I'm not holding on to it. I'm not like holding it this way. I'm just balancing it on my knuckle. The only way I'm gonna keep this shoe stabilized on my knuckles is by keeping my eyes glued to it. So let's see how that looks. Remember, you're always gonna start with arms completely straight, and there's a big sit up at the beginning. So I'm gonna take a big breath, and I'm gonna sit up to my elbow, then I'm gonna drive my hand into the floor as I come to my palm, and then I'm gonna pick my hips up, drag my knee under me, replace my butt cheek on the floor with my foot, sit back in my heel as I pick my hand up off the floor and drive my hips forward. Then I'm gonna make a decision, front leg or back leg. I'm gonna move my front leg forward, and here I can look down and stand up. Take a deep breath, step back into your lunge position. I'm gonna move my leg again, and from here, again, I'm gonna push my hips back, use my thigh as an indicator of where I am, and then I'm gonna place my hand on the floor, coming straight off of that knee. Then I'm gonna bring my leg out and lift my hips up and drop my hips to the floor as I come to my elbow, and then my shoulder, and then my other shoulder. It's gonna take some practice. But once you have that figured out, you'll be able to get up and down underneath the kettlebell without taking your eyes off of it, which gives you a lot more balance and stability and forces your joints to really activate. Once you have the stabilization down and the balance of that shoe on your knuckles, you can transfer that knowledge to weight. One of the best things about a Turkish get-up is that you can use it for a number of different things. A warm-up, a cool-down, a finisher, a 1-rep max. Super fun to play with the different realms. One of my favorite ways to work out with a kettlebell and to build strength is with a 10-minute every minute on the minute. I'll start with a light weight, like a 15 or 18-pound weight. I'll take my time warming up with it, doing a couple different repetitions on each side, and then I'll set a timer. For 10 minutes, I'm gonna work on Turkish get-ups and building my weight up as I go. On the first minute, and on every single minute, at the top of every single minute, I'm gonna start with a heavier bell. So minute 1 comes around, I'm gonna use a 26-pound kettlebell, left and right. Minute 2, same thing, but with a 30-pound kettlebell, left and right, until I get to the point where one Turkish get-up with a 45-pound weight is really taxing, and therefore I can do 1 get-up a minute. It's a really good way to build strength, but it's also a really good way to hone in on your skills. A safety tip: when you are in your get-ups, you want to make sure the transfer of one side to the other side is very smooth. So this is what I want you to do. You're always going to start in the fetal position, You're going to slide your hands through to grip the kettlebell, and from here, you're going to pull it onto your chest. You're going to stabilize it here with your elbow on the floor. You're going to stabilize your core and use the other arm to press it up. So you have plenty of balance and support here, so it's not going to fall on your head. From here, you're going to keep that shoulder engaged and active, pressing into the bell as hard as you can, making sure your knuckles are always facing the ceiling. The second this happens, you have broken the chain. My knuckles are broken. That means my strength is 50% less than it could be. So press those knuckles towards the ceiling. This is hard, and it will build some grip strength over time, but this is where you want to be the whole time. So when I'm here, I'm going to do my sit-up, and then I'm going to go to my hand, but my arm never breaks. All the way back, same thing. Arm never breaks. Knuckles always facing the ceiling. If I want to switch sides, I'm going to come down to the floor, go back into my fetal position, and then I'm going to use my arms to go all the way around. So I'm going to bring it up to my face, go all the way around to the other side, back into my fetal position, gripping the kettlebell tight, coming onto my back, and again, using my other hand to support. As I've said before, a lot of people get hurt setting up and coming out of movements rather than actually doing the movement. So take your time on the get-ups, really hone in on the basics, do other kettlebell movements to strengthen for this, like kettlebell presses, kettlebell squats, cleans, and snatches, which I'll have demonstrations for in the next few videos. But make sure you are getting really familiar with the kettlebell itself. This is an advanced move, but it also can be a very beneficial move if you take some time and learn it. See you next time.